Welcome to this month's power session. I'm Samantha Stewart, founder and CEO of Occiden and Company, healthcare entrepreneur, operations whisperer, and your favorite consultant who calls it like it is. Let's talk about a silent killer in your clinic. Not burnout, not EMRs, not even the fax machine from 1999 that you refuse to replace. I'm talking about your staff schedule. Yeah. The innocent little Excel sheet or Google Doc. It's the reason your clinic is bleeding money, morale, and momentum. Okay, every clinic says the same thing. We're fully booked. We got patients waiting weeks, and our team is overwhelmed. I get called in. I run a workflow audit, and here's what I find. Your MOA is triple booking the wrong doctor. Your nurse is prepping charts for patients who've already canceled. And your physician is triple tasking while still trying to grab lunch at 4:15 p.m. standing over a garbage can. But when I look under the hood, you're not fully booked. You're actually just poorly booked. And there is a difference because one makes you profitable and the other makes you panic. And here's the cold hard truth. Here's a fact. Here's a tip. A did you know? Okay? Most clinics lose about 15 to 25% of potential revenue because their schedule doesn't match their patient flow. Listen to me. You're not overbooked. You are misaligned. Let me say this again. Let me say this again for the people in the back. Sorry, so silly. But it's not a staff shortage. It's actually a scheduling problem. And think about it. Actually pause and think about it. You've got your nurse doing admin. Your admin is doing clinical prep. And your doctor is doing everything because nobody thought to book in a lunch break. What does bad scheduling actually cost you? Let's start with burnout. Your team can't breathe between back-to-back appointments and quick questions from patients that turn into a therapy session at the front of the clinic. We have revenue loss when the wrong staff are assigned to the wrong roles at the wrong time, which tank your billables. And then on the opposite, sometimes you're paying people to stand around, or those same people can also incite panic. Another consequence, no-shows and cancellations, because patients get booked at times that doesn't fit, and contacting the clinic or rescheduling is harder than finding a GP in Alberta. You also get patient confusion, which is a consequence that sometimes isn't thought about. When you have a culture of just a late running clinic, you have bad Google reviews. And then there is a loss of trust, you know. I was working with this clinic and Sam, we're packed, we're slammed, but we're not seeing, the money. And their schedules were full, but their bank account didn't reflect it. And I asked the question, what is your no-show rate by the day of the week? And they looked at me like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, that's okay. I'll throw it in with the audit. Why not? Just to find out, And then we learned that Wednesdays were bleeding them dry. Like up to 9 out of 20 appointments were just disappearing. No warning, no call, just silence. And there was no follow-up. Nobody was following up or rebooking or anything. And why? Because Wednesdays were built around convenience for the staff, but not the patients. Not to mention that the physician changed like every week. Appointments were randomly double booked. Like over half of the admin was off by 1. So no one was even there to follow up with the confirmations. And we cleaned it up. Theme days. I love theme days. I love like creating opportunities to achieve what you say that you will achieve. Let's create or dedicate a time or a day to a task, and that way we know that it's done, we know when we're going to do it, and we know how it fits into our flow. So we implemented theme days, added automated reminders with 2-way confirmation, and we used the predictive analytics from the EMR data to book patients at the times that they were most likely to show up. We also sometimes would double book at those times, which is not something that I recommend all the time, but you never know, just to be safe, right? And in under 30 days, the no-show rate dropped by 43%. And like I put it, like I'll use like numbers that are close but like not accurate, because I'm not trying to put this clinic on blast, but let's just talk about real money, right? On average, each visit was $67 per visit. If you have 27 no-shows a week that just disappear, appointment slots that there's no-show rate or fee that's being collected, that appointment isn't being rebooked, it's like a referral that's lost, like you're bleeding referrals if you think about it. Or regular patients, however you book. And that 27 no-shows a week is $1,800 every week, which is like $7,200 a month in vanishing revenue. And then after we fix it and more of those slots get filled, and because it's also tightened, the process and how the schedule is prepped is tight, so you even have room to add 5 more visits a week. That's like $90,000 in recovered revenue. Doing the same thing. Well, not the same thing. Like you have the same staff, you have the same building, you just have a smarter strategy. Staff complaints are gone and physicians will stay. But the thing is like your team won't tell you any of this, and they can't. Sometimes when you're in an environment that's so back to back, you can't look at it from a bird's eye view. And that's why it's important as a leader to be that person for your team, to alleviate that pain and have a smoother process. And unless you have a communication that is open and transparent and is being able to be received, the team will just suffer in silence, and you'll wonder why the morale's low and you have high turnover in your clinic. Okay, let's talk delusions. A lot of the times, I get, oh, but Sam, we use Dayforce. We use Dayforce for our scheduling software. And I go, that's cute, but tools without strategy is really just expensive chaos. And let me list some of the scheduling myths that would be beneficial to let go of. Number 1, first come, first served works. False. No, it doesn't. First come, first served actually punishes proactive patients and rewards time wasters. Let me explain, okay? When you run on a first come, first serve model, you're letting the most persistent patients, not the most appropriate ones, fill up your schedule. Okay? The squeaky wheel gets the spot, Even if they're calling in for something that could have been handled by a nurse, a phone call, or an existing order. Meanwhile, your high-risk patients, complex cases, or top billable procedures get washed out. So this means low visit value, or low value visits. If you could say that 3 times, you let me know. Low value visits crowd out high value care. Staff are overwhelmed by the inefficiencies, so your clinic becomes reactive instead of strategic. And I could tell you something worse. You might not get ready. Here's what's worse. It breeds entitlement. The patient who calls 5 times a week knows that they will get in because they always do. And the quiet, compliant patient who actually follows instructions waits 3 weeks for a follow-up. That's not care. That's chaos. A smart clinic doesn't just fill time slots. It curates them based on clinical urgency, revenue strategy, and patient flow optimization. Stop rewarding whoever calls first and start prioritizing who needs to be seen and how it serves your clinic's bigger picture. Okay, here's another myth that will be beneficial to let go. Letting staff pick their shifts to boost morale. Yeah, that's all fun and games until 3 people want Friday off on a long weekend and no one touches Monday morning. Like, no, you're not running a yoga studio, my friend. You're running a medical clinic with billables, patients, and payroll. And let's be real, shift freedom often turns into perceived favoritism, and everybody and their mom knows the vibe. Why does she always get the long weekend? Why do I always get the late shift? Why do we even have a schedule if people can trade it whenever they want? And then tension simmers, the morale drops, and leadership looks inconsistent. Like, here's the hard truth. Flexible doesn't mean a free-for-all. And democracy doesn't work in scheduling when revenue is on the line. Set the standard. Block the essentials. And let fairness come from structure and not politics. Here's another myth that I low-key love, because I'm a go with the flow person, but we don't need data to build our schedule because we know our flow, Sam. Like, do you though? Do you? Are you just winging it based on vibes, Most clinics, quote unquote, know their flow the same way people know they're eating healthy until they actually log it and realize 2 almond croissants have no protein. Like, you aren't getting protein. Like, let's be honest. What you think you know is usually just like a few recent patient interactions, negative or positive. Your favorite team member's opinion and the leftover stress and PTSD from one chaotic Monday like 2 months ago. And that's not strategy. That's selective memory mixed with burnout bias. Like, here's what's really happening in these clinics that say that they know their flow. You're overbooking on Tuesday because it used to be your busiest day back in like 2020, okay? You're understaffed Friday mornings because someone once said it was quiet, but if you look at your billing, it shows otherwise, okay? You got your most expensive resource, which is the physician, charting between visits because no one mapped actual appointment durations. And when we come in and run a real-time schedule audit, you find out 30% of your slots are low-yield visits. No-shows spike after 3:30 p.m. Your revenue drops 18% every time admin coverage shifts midday. So data doesn't lie, your gut does. And every day you trust vibes over numbers, you bleed dollars and burn out your team. So unless your gut runs on algorithms, it's time to stop guessing, okay? And start scheduling like a business that actually wants to scale. It's everything to spend thousands of dollars onboarding a new scheduling software. It'll look gorgeous, color-coded, AI-powered, buzzword heaven. But if you've never changed the rules behind the schedule, you'll just have the same broken logic that's prettier, It's not your tech, it's your thinking. All right, here's my favorite part, Here's what we do with clinics who want to stop the bleeding. We audit your appointment types, visit durations, and no-show rates. Not everything needs 30 minutes. Not every visit needs a doctor. We also track how long each type of visit really takes, so there's no assumptions and there's no fluff. We build power hours for physicians. Block 2 to 3 hours a day for only high-yield billables. Trust me, you'll thank me later. We create staff clusters, and that looks like nursing time, admin time, charting time, not all at once, and not all day. We leverage AI, yeah. The future isn't coming. It's already in clinics that run like luxury cars. And some clinics, are still pulling the e-brake every time you hit Tuesday afternoon. But instead, we can predict cancellations, reallocate resources, trigger reminders. You can outsmart the chaos. And lastly, we build power revenue engines, okay? Dr. A gets 3 power hours of back-to-back high-value visits, no interruptions. The nurse preps. Admin team queues the labs like it runs like a machine. I've spoken with like a solo GP who was just exhausted and overworked and on the verge of considering quitting her practice, doing everything, appointments, admin, referrals, labs. It was wild. And there was a conversation that was had to consider a hybrid schedule where you have days for execution, days for follow-up, and incorporating AI to triage through the EMR. One can go from 70 patients a week to 110 with less stress. All right, party people, let's land this plane. The way you schedule reflects the way that you lead. Start running your clinic like a business that actually makes sense, because behind every chaotic schedule is an outdated mindset and a leadership team stuck in survival mode. If you want to stop duct taping the same problems every quarter and start operating like the healthcare leaders who are actually thriving, then here's your next move. Download my latest ebook, Digital Transformation and AI Adaptation in Healthcare. It is not fluff and it is not theory. It is the real playbook for understanding where Alberta healthcare is going and how your clinic can lead the way. Inside, I walk you through the history of Alberta's digital systems. Yes, even Connect Care and NetCare. The latest AI tools transforming how decisions get made, and toolkits for clinics that are done with playing catch up. Strategies to lead you through that change without burning out your team or your bank account. You'll see why efficient scheduling is just the tip of the iceberg. So if you're tired of the old ways, and if you're ready to raise the bar in your clinic, grab your copy now at Occiden.ca. I'm Samantha Stewart, CEO of Occiden & Company, and I don't just consult, I build better clinics. Catch you in the next session.